Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to Kitchen Chats. I am your host, Aimee Kandrac, and today we are coming to you live from Maven Space in downtown Indianapolis, and I am so honored to have my new friend and guest, Rachel Macy Stafford, here with me today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us. So Rachel and I were introduced a few years ago by a mutual friend who is no longer with us, Aimee Kandrac. And I posted on social media at some point that I think I was, considering writing a book or something. I've since learned that I'm a talker and not a writer, so the book hasn't happened. But I was asking advice, and Aimee said, I'm not your person, but I have this really special friend who you should speak with. And she put me in touch with you. And it has been such an honor to get to know you, Rachel. And it's been such a pleasure. So thank you to Aimee for making that introduction to us. And I know you have friends, and I definitely have friends who knew Aimee when she was here, and she passed away a couple of years ago from colon cancer. So in Aimee's honor, we'll remind everyone to get checked for colon cancer and get their screening. But Rachel, I'm ready to finally let you have a moment to speak. But I love to start my kitchen chat conversation with the same question to all of my guests. And that is, do you have a moment in your life that you're willing to share with our audience when you found yourself in the kitchen with someone where there's this major life event and it's time to talk to a friend about what's going on or what happens next?
I definitely do. Thank you all for being here. So now I'm going to cry. So after my father-in-law died in 2017, and I was just on the tail end of launching my third book, Only Love Today, and I was coming back from a trip to Canada and grieving, and I just had a really, really dark night where I didn't know if I wanted to stay, and I wrote about it because that's like the best therapy for me, and I also want people to know that you might see me having this life that seems put together and that I know what I'm doing, but that I struggle too. And so I put it out there, and I got a knock on the door within 15 minutes. And I was like, who is knocking at my door? I do not answer my door. Normally I just get down low and I wait for them to go. But they were really persistent, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna see what this is. So it was my next door neighbor, and we're friendly. We're not super close, but apparently she reads everything that I post because she came right over, and her name's Heather, and she is the kind of person that will go there with you. She just will be bold with whatever her question is. And so she said, Rachel, I just read your post about your dark night and about the questions that you were having. And she said, I want you to know that you don't have to be strong with me. And she goes, I know you're strong for a lot of people. And I want you to know your next door neighbor is not expecting that. You come over and you can cry with me and tell me how it is. And I carry that with me. You don't have to be strong with me. I carry that with me every day. I use that with people because how often are we told that we don't have to be strong, especially as women who are holding up so much for our families.
Especially as women who are also going through so much at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
What a really, really special gift that she gave to you.
Yep.
Wow.
So thank you for asking.
Of course. Thanks for sharing that with all of us. That's not something that I think many of us are able to admit often, and definitely not something that, well, really anybody else in the audience has the opportunity to share with as many people as you do. So thanks for being vulnerable with that. And I think that actually, we're not going to just talk about your book, but that is pretty relevant to your book and why you wrote it, because it's all about how are we showing up for our families? How are we showing up for ourselves when something's going on? Even when something not that massively huge is going on, right? But there's always something that we need to be carrying for someone else, and how we're going to be there for them, right? And your neighbor is one of those people for you in your kitchen. How nice.
Yep.
So you wrote this book kind of during lockdown and COVID, right?
Yes.
Not a time where you can go and sit in someone else's kitchen and talk and have a lot of extra conversation. So how did that work, writing this book that is so emotionally touching about the fact that you're carrying a lot for your family? And the world had to be isolated right then.
Yeah.
How was that?
Well, I definitely had a different approach to Soul Shift than I did to all my other books. One of the reasons, and you mentioned the pandemic and how that affected our families, our children, our teenagers, and in my house, it deeply affected my youngest daughter. And so having a contract to write a book by a certain deadline and wanting to also be there for my daughter through what she was going through, it was one of those things where you know when you wake up in the morning and you're not really sure what's going to come at you because things are so unstable. And I had to decide, like, I'm not going to have a writing schedule. There was no nice, neat little calendar with chapter 1 this week, and because I could not plan anything. And I know a lot of people during the pandemic, you couldn't plan anything.
Well, and even after the pandemic, as we're moving into quote unquote normal, when you've got a kiddo who's going through something, when you've got a spouse who's going through something, when you yourself are going through something, you can't keep that schedule, right? And releasing the requirement on ourselves to have a schedule, that's not something that I can do very well.
Oh,
like,
same.
That doesn't work for me as well as I would love to pretend it could. But when you're going through a crisis, you just can't have that the same way.
And one of the things that helped me the most that I'd never used before when I was writing a book was self-compassion. And I talked to myself like I would talk to a friend who was trying to do something really hard at a really hard time. And there would be mornings when I would know, okay, I'm supposed to be working on this part of the book, and I just couldn't do it. And so I would find myself saying, I can't do this. Like, I can't write this book. But I said, wait a minute, let's just add one word. I can't do this today. What can I do today? And it was interesting because I took over the ping pong table in our basement with construction paper, Sharpies, sticky notes, because even though I couldn't put sentences together, I had ideas. and I had things I wanted people to feel when they went through the book, because I was just like, I was in it. I'm like, what would I want if I was a weary human?
Oh, but you were a weary human.
Exactly.
Right? So.
Exactly. So I laid out this kind of like this map on the ping pong table and just did what I could in those days. And what transpired is a book that has like all this space in it. It has places to doodle and draw and journal. And it just feels like a place you can breathe, because that is how I created it. And so letting go of that rigid schedule that I normally put myself on, that was a huge triumph for me. Like, I think we're cut from the same cloth. Like, you don't give yourself a break. You don't say, oh yeah, I can rest today.
Yeah, that doesn't.
But
maybe tomorrow, actually. I've kind of thought that maybe
maybe tomorrow, yes.
Right? How many times do we all say, oh, well, I'm sure tomorrow
Yes.
I can do that. But how important it is when we're going through something to remind ourselves that we have to take that space to breathe. And I can't do it for myself usually, but I know there are people in this room who can do it for me as that reminder of like, okay, Aimee, you gotta take a break for a second. Let's go get lunch. Let's go for a walk. Can we chat? Can we FaceTime? Because you need a break, and I can see that for you, and that's something that I can do to help you, is remind you. And I'm an extrovert, and I verbally process, hence the podcast.
Yes.
But it helps me debrief and create that space. And for you, it's the writing.
Yes.
It's the writing. And I know we talked on our last podcast about other ways that we can like take care of ourselves, and you love a swing in the backyard or wherever you can find it.
Yes.
But you also talk a lot about other forms of self-care. So what are some of your other self-care tips? And
Well,
thoughts?
I actually don't like to use the term self-care,
Good.
because I feel like it's really been commercialized, and we tend to think of things that are like to pamper ourselves.
Oh, let's go spend hundreds of dollars at the spa.
Right.
Which I'm okay with
And
sometimes.
exactly, but realistically, we don't want to put off our self-care for like once every 6 months we do something for ourselves.
Right.
So in the book, it's one of the practices of the 8 practices. I called it the practice of looking after yourself,
Oh, I like that.
because we know how to look after people. We're really good at it.
Yeah.
Not so good at looking after ourselves, but what good are we if we don't? Because nobody's going to do it for us.
Right.
So I think like when people come to me and they're like, well, I don't even remember like what I like to do. I don't know what fulfills me. I don't know what lights me up. I don't even know. And so I will talk about like, okay, when you were a kid, where did you feel joy? Where did you lose track of time? Where did you feel capable and strong? And people will be like, oh yeah, I used to, and for me, I used to swing. I could pump my legs and just soar in the sky, and it was just so calming and restorative. I felt literally like I was being held. And so just during the pandemic, in fact, I found all these swings all over Atlanta that I didn't know were there. And I was like, did someone put this swing here just for me by this beautiful little river? And just like sitting there for even 20 minutes, I would feel like a different person. And I don't think anyone would say, oh, self-care, getting on a swing. But it's not so much the getting on the swing, it's my heart told me, Rachel, you should go get on that swing. And I didn't say, no, you need to keep walking. You don't have your steps in.
Yeah, your steps, you got to keep rolling.
Exactly.
You don't have the circles today.
It's like listening. And I say self-love starts with self-listening. Self-love is also this concept that's so vague. Well, what if self-love is just listening to your body cues, like, oh, I'm hungry, instead of pushing it off, or I'm tired, or I'm scared, and verbalizing it, telling someone, just like when we look after our children and they tell us, I need this, and we tend to them.
Because that's how we can move forward, not only for ourselves, but as you mentioned, for our children, for our grandchildren, for spouses, for our friends, right? We want to be there for other people, but we can't when we're not in the right spot.
Exactly. And they're learning how to cope in the world that we live in today and the stress that we have. They're learning by watching us.
Well, and we're learning at the same, or I'm at least still learning at the same
totally,
time,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to learn, how am I going to get through whatever this new event is, right? I don't think any of us ever plan for being diagnosed with something, or having an accident, or having any of these things happen in life where we need to support someone else and or need to be supported. So having that toolkit ready so that we can be there and know where to go when something does happen, right?
Yeah.
And I know I've had a lot of friends who have said, they're like, well, I don't really have anything going on as a major thing in my life right now, and I'm like, that is so fantastic, but that doesn't mean someone else isn't, that you can support. Right? There might be, and maybe you are a companion to someone who's going through something right now. And being that companion to someone going through any event is really, really huge.
Yes.
Yeah, I
It is
know
huge.
that you had some of that with Avery.
Yeah, that's when I decided that there should be a term of companion as a verb. I am companioning her through this journey. That's her journey. I can't take this pain away from her. I can't solve this problem. This is something she has to go through. But I can tell her, you don't have to go through it alone. I'll be your companion.
And we as friends can do that.
Yes.
For our friends who are going through something also, right? We have the opportunity to step in as that next door neighbor, as the friend even who's in a different state, who can call and check in as the companion to say, I'm here with you.
Well, and I think that's a great point to make, that we often overthink it. We often overthink, well, I don't know what to say to my friend who's going through this horrible crisis. Or, well, I just made this loaf of bread, but like, I don't have a dinner to go with it. Like, I'm not going to take it over. Like, those are the things that we need to stop doing, because when your heart says, I should reach out, I should take this bread over, I should ask her if I can run to the store, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, how did you know? And it's because you're listening to that nudge.
Yeah. I read an article this week that really resonated with me, especially about what we're talking to today. And it reminded me, not only, like, I feel pretty good that when I'm thinking of someone, I'll try to send them a text. Just, hey, I'm thinking about you. But it allowed me to kind of expand. When I see someone who's going through something, they suggested 3 H's. do you want to be heard? Do you want to be hugged? Or do you want to be helped? And I know at different times, I, as the recipient of that question, would have different answers.
Yeah.
I also know there are different times as the questioner, can't always help, right?
True.
I can't always be the person to go in and help solve this or help with that, but I can hear you. Or I can just come and give you a hug right now. And I think as the companion, as the friend, as the person who is walking this journey side by side with you, those are questions that I'm going to try to internalize, those 3 H's.
Well, I think that we also shouldn't underestimate just the power of presence.
Yeah, huge.
And I brought something because I want to, this like out of all the passages in the book, this is the one I'm hearing the most people have been writing to me, like,
Yeah.
and it was so personal to me with Avery, but apparently this is something that a lot of people feel. I got to get my glasses.
Hey, that's what I would have you hold it over here for me.
Okay. So I'm just going to read a portion of this little poem that I wrote after a visit to the doctor. That was tough. I am a companion on a journey I didn't ask for. No how-to, no instruction manual, no gentle guide to lead us. I am the guide, learning as I go, but too busy holding pieces of pain and fear to take notes. Yet sealed in my brain, etched on my heart, is encouragement for my fellow companions, those keeping close as their beloveds navigate a difficult journey. I step off the path for a moment to let the sun warm my face and offer this message to my fellow travelers. Never underestimate the significance of that hand on their foot, of that assurance in your voice, of that belief you manage to grasp out of thin air. Your ability to connect in crisis without a manual, without a map, is the most direct form of love and comfort you can offer in times of uncertainty.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
And so, right. You know, there's no guide. There's no manual because every situation is different. But today I launched my 24th podcast episode.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Every single person has said that if you don't know what you need to do, if you don't know what to say, you show up. And that hand on the foot is just, I really love the visualization of that. And like, can I just put a hand on your foot or your shoulder or something as you're going through?
And that I had asked ahead of time if I could hold her hand during the procedure, and they said no. And so her toe was literally like right there, and I was like, maybe they won't catch me holding Avery's foot, but I could see her breathing was becoming labored, and she was getting scared, and I just want her to know, I'm here. You're not alone.
Yeah. And it helps you at the same time.
Yes.
Right? Because I know if I walk into a situation, and I do this often, right? When I'm anxious and uptight, and my energy's not going to help calm anything down.
Exactly.
And if I can help make that connection, maybe it's going to help both of us at the same time, right? So, but it goes back to what you also said. Like, we've got to know what's good for us so that we can be taking care of other people. And sometimes taking care of someone else is helpful for us, right? In the sense that, like, I have the opportunity to help you. And that helps me at the same time.
Yeah.
And it depends, obviously on the situation, because everything is dependent on that. But meaning, if we're both going through this together, you allowing me to helps me get through the crisis at the same time.
Yeah.
And even if I'm just a companion on the side, there's actually a lot of healing that can happen when you're helping someone that someone doesn't even know about, right? One of the goals that I had when I was starting this podcast was to try to destigmatize asking for help and receiving help, right? That is not something that you do in the Midwest. I know it's everywhere, but like, we're supposed to be ready to do all of our own things, especially as women. Like, we've got all of this, especially if it's all of the caretaking, companion care, all of that kind of stuff. But when we allow someone else to help us, they're getting something out of it too.
Yes. I remember that same neighbor. She's very intuitive. She saw me at the mailbox, and I was going through some foot problems, and she's like, "How are you?" I mean, how are you? And I was like, well, I gotta have surgery on my foot. And I will not forget what she said to me. She said, "When that procedure is scheduled, you better give me the date." And I was like, okay. She said, "Because it would be my honor to show up for you." That's what she said to me.
Yeah.
And that made me believe that she really did want to help. It would be my honor. And I know how that feels when someone says, "This is what you can do." And I'm like, oh, thank goodness they told me I want to do something.
Well, and it really is such a privilege to be allowed into someone's space when they're going through any kind of anything. And I've had a lot of foot surgeries, so I completely understand how that goes. Like, but more intimate than that. When someone lets you help them,
Yeah.
I mean, how special is that? And the connections that you now have. But it's hard to do. At least it feels weird for me, and this is maybe my job.
No. It's hard for me to ask for help, but the more that I do it, the more I see that we're not supposed to navigate life alone. Like, we're not designed for that.
Right. We're not. We are designed to be, humans are social creatures, and we're not all supposed to have the same skills. We're not all supposed to have the same even needs, but ways of helping other people. But we all need that connection. And we all get so much healing when we allow everyone else to come together.
And I think it'd be important to note also that sometimes we can take the helper role too far.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's important to also bring up, because although it's wonderful to help someone when they're in crisis, we also have to remember that we can't fix it. And I know that at least when I was going through that with Avery, I was like reaching out for every resource under the sun and just spending enormous amounts of time. Like, it was consuming me because I wanted to help her and support her. And my mom's here tonight, and my mom is always the voice of wisdom. She was a therapist for many, many years, and I was talking about how worried I was about Avery. And my mom dropped a truth bomb on me. She said, the person I'm most worried about right now, Rachel, is you. And I think that you need to start investing and taking care of healing yourself. Because she said, she's not the only one who's going through a traumatic event. You're also. And so I think that that's important to note, that we can't always be the helper. And maybe we have to evaluate, how am I helping? Am I actually taking away something that's not mine to carry?
Right. Maybe some of the stuff isn't mine to fix.
Yeah, that's hard.
It is really hard. And maybe there are better ways for me to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically we're saying there's no one size fits all.
There's no one size.
It's definitely like case by case. And again, it's why it's so important to get in tune with yourself and to do that self-listening, because I think there's so much guidance inside us, and we know our people. We have loved them. And so to trust ourselves in saying, I feel like maybe this is consuming me, and that's a hard thing to admit and say, I think I need to step back. And even having a hard conversation with someone that you have loved and you thought you were supporting them. And I know for Avery, for me to say, I'm trying to take things away from you that are yours. And I'm sorry that I was doing that. And I'm going to let you lead. And it's hard, but if we want to empower them to believe, I'm capable, I can get through this. And that's another thing I think people just need to hear, you are capable of handling this. Because how often do we feel like, I can't do this? And for someone to say, yes, you can.
You can. And I can be here if you want to be heard.
And you can't be strong today.
And you can't be strong today. Or if you want to hug today. Or is there something else I can take off your plate and help you with?
Exactly.
And I am really fortunate and lucky that I do have enough people who will remind me of those things as I'm going through something. And I have to check myself, though, before to know what do I really need.
That's a good.
What do I really need right
instead
now?
of diving right in.
Yeah. So we are getting close to our time.
No.
I know.
We could talk for hours.
I know we could. But as I close out all of my podcasts, I like to ask my guests 2 final questions.
Okay.
And the first one is, what is your favorite thing to do for someone else if they are like a friend or a family member, if they're experiencing any kind of anything? What's your go-to?
Well, that's super easy. And there's probably some people in this room who have been recipients of this. But I am the care package queen. I love to make care packages.
You're going to have to talk to my mom about this. Just
You
going
do
to say,
too?
we
could put our talents together.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, there's just something about putting together that box, with a specific person in mind. My favorite person in mind was Natalie's best friend went to college a year before she did, and I was waiting for Erin to go to college because she likes cats as much as I do. It's like a cat care package. This is like my dream. It's like everything I love all at once. And I made the mistake of asking the lady at the shop if she had any cat stuff. And she literally she's like, oh, here's a Zen cat litter. You can just get very calm while you, and I was like.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
I know.
But that is I don't know about that.
I didn't know about it, but I was like, that's got Erin written all over it. And so, of course, I got the cat litter Zen box. And then she gave me 10 other things. I was like, okay, that's enough. But it was so cute because, I don't know, like teenagers today, like if they get a care package, they like video it. So then you get to see the unboxing. And I was like, this is so amazing because she unboxed it for me. And she was like, oh, I've always wanted one of these. And I'm just like, wow. So care package all the way for me.
I am so thrilled that there are people in this world who love to do care packages, and that you're one of them. This makes me really happy, and it clearly gives you so much joy. Oh, please don't ever make me do a care package.
Maybe I'll make you a care package after this, because now I kind of know you.
You do.
So
we've been texting all the time. It's been kind of fun. Well, thank you for sharing that. So the final question is, when you are going through something, what is the best thing that someone can do for you, or that they have done for you?
Well, I have a lot of really special friends that just seem to know really when to reach out or when I can't, be strong. And I had a situation about a year ago, and it was like I just had this huge dilemma in front of me regarding what was going on with Avery, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, I literally don't know what to do. And I drove to Target. I did not go inside, which is a miracle, but I was in the parking lot, and I texted my friend Shannon, who's mentioned in the book a lot. Like, I should probably give her royalties because she's just like such a wise friend to me. And I told her, I was like, Shannon, like, I do not know what to do, and that what I decide is just so, it's gonna change things. And she's like, Rachel, you do know what to do. And I was like, no, I don't. Tell me what to do. She's like, Rachel, you just haven't given yourself the time and the space to listen. You don't have to figure this out right now. You know what to do, but you just have to let it have time to surface. Because she said, Rachel, you're go all the time. Mm-hmm. And you're not giving yourself a chance to hear. And she was right. She was right. Like, I went and visited my mom and dad like shortly after that conversation, and my dad was like, you gotta go see the butterfly garden. They're at a retirement home. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go down there. And I was literally sitting in the butterfly garden when I remembered that Shannon had this vision of these flowers just pop, 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 pop. And she said, I thought it was for Avery, but actually the garden was for me. And I just needed to sit and let these seeds kind of have time to grow and root. And it just was like one of those moments that I went, okay, I think I do know what to do. But I needed someone to tell me, because I don't think I would have got there if she hadn't.
That's a really, really special friend.
She's very special.
How easy was that for her to say?
I know.
But yet not really for us to hear.
Exactly. Yeah.
Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much to our audience for listening to us today and joining us.